Good morning, I'm Tim Bradner. We're at the University of Alaska Fairbanks campus and at Governor Bill Walker's conference on Alaska's sustainability, financial sustainability that is. And I'm with Diane Kaplan, the executive director of the Rasmuson Foundation. And Diane, your organization has thought a lot about these issues. And I think you mentioned just last week you had a conference with some, or not a conference, but a meeting with some folks trying to do some outreach, I guess in preparation for this meeting?
Well, in part for that, but we are designed to be here in Alaska in perpetuity. We have a long view. We don't have to be up for election every 3 years or every 4 years. And our mission is improving the quality of life for Alaskans. So what we see on the horizon, unless some action and bold action is taken quickly, is everything we've been working 60 years to accomplish is going to be diminished.
And were you surprised at the size of the financial gap? I mean, I was.
Well, I wasn't surprised at the size of the deficit this year, because with oil prices dropping in half, basically, you could do the numbers knowing the size of the budget. What was a surprise to me is how difficult it would be to fill that gap with anything other than raising revenues, which Alaskans don't like to talk about.
You just came out of just this morning you were in some of the meetings over there across in the building. What are people talking about over there?
Well, perhaps surprisingly, there seems to be general support for an income tax, not only because it raises a lot of money, but because people feel Alaskans are disconnected from their government in terms of how money is spent right now, because basically when the state puts a budget together, they're not contributing to it. And it's a value of Rasmuson Foundation. When we invest in something, we expect the beneficiary to have some skin in the game. So we never fund 100% of a project for a community or an organization. We expect them to contribute. In the case of Alaska, Alaskans don't have any skin in the game.
In this case, and this would, what sort of things are you hearing about use of permanent fund earnings?
Well, there's a lot of disagreement around the permanent fund. There are some who feel that a lot of families depend on it to pay basic expenses. A lot of participants in my group just think it's politically going to be very difficult to persuade people to give up any of their permanent fund dividend. However, in our model we were working on, we looked at managing the permanent fund as an endowment, which would be very much like Rasmussen Foundation is managed, so that you have a predictable rate year after year of returns, and then if there's excess revenue in any years, you can build up reserves for the times when you need it.
Diane, take just a minute and tell us what the Rasmussen Foundation does.
We're a statewide foundation created by the Rasmussen family, which is still very much engaged with the foundation, and our sole mission is improving the quality of life for Alaskans. So we make grants around the state in response to requests, and then we also initiate on major issues in the state.
I've always been impressed by the diversity of issues you're involved in. Maybe you could just give us a sampling of. I know you're well known for your arts grants.
Yeah, well, we've not changed appreciably since we started in 1955. Arts and health and human services absorb about 2/3 of our funding, and the rest goes to everything else, which would be education, community development.
And how, in just approximate amounts, I mean, how much per year in grants?
About $30 million a year.
That's pretty substantial.
Pretty substantial, but a drop in the bucket compared to the numbers we're talking about today.
And those demands will go up as state revenues tighten. The state grants for a lot of these same things are going to tighten up. So in effect, you folks have a real stake in this discussion.
We actually expect currently demand to go down for our dollars, and the reason is the vast majority of our funds go for capital projects, and none of the scenarios I've looked at today include any capital money. We have no money in the capital budget for the most part
Meaning
for
the state capital.
nonprofits
Meaning
in
the
the
state
state
capital.
capital budget. And we no longer have federal earmarks. The Denali Commission is no longer funding community facilities. USDA has almost as zero grant dollars for Alaska. So there are very few sources of matching funds for organizations which want to access Rasmussen dollars. So we're actually seeing a decline in major capital initiatives around the state.
Now, I hadn't really realized that, but you're right. The state capital budget, the portion which went in small grants to nonprofits, was used for matching funds, for leveraging other money.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's going to have a kind of a double effect or
It
triple
will.
effect.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Diane, thank you for taking
You're
a couple
welcome.
minutes with us.
Okay.
Thank you. This is Tim Bradner. Thank you for joining us.